What? 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 Trying to make a point. Wines like this, don't drink them while you're vacuuming and you're listening to your punk or your rap on 2 sets of earphones. Calm down. Let's set a scene of serenity here. Serenity now. What? Hello, I'm listening now. Yes, you pretty little wine. I can hear you. Get the point? You probably don't. Did I mess up my hair? No. Okay, good. Because I had a hat ready just in case. Point is, today's point is that some wines are loudmouths. Some of them you can be vacuuming and have flashing lights and flashy sunglasses and your iPod shuffle going and everything, and you'd still hear that wine. Other wines are, however, inherently discreet. Are those lesser wines? No, actually, I think the pursuit of smell, the chasing down of evasivity, I'll practice. That's a quality. You are often intrigued by something or someone who doesn't give it all up at once, right? You know, it's more about the seduction, the subtlety, and that's what a wine like this is all about. So today's little lesson is on being more attentive and anticipating some wines not being loudmouths. And this wine type certainly is one of those. This is called Gavi, G-A-V-I. Gavi is the wine region up in Piemonte, Italy, where they also make Barolo and Barbaresco and Barbera, confusingly. But one of the great white wines from up there is Gavi. It's not great because it's a loudmouth. It's actually great because it's discreet. It doesn't try to do too much. In fact, some Gavis are so discreet, they basically suck. But we found you a good Gavi. Is it louder? Is it bigger? Not really, maybe a little more fleshiness to it, but this Gavi from San Silvestro, we've also carried their Arnase, is just marvelous for its discretion, for its evasivity. Got it? San Silvestro, we're putting it on the wine bar menu this week, and I think with all the commotion out there, the smoke and the heat and, you know, as we try to decompress from our weekends, this will be a very welcome reset, recalibration of the mood. But you're gonna have to kind of get ready. You're gonna have to calibrate yourself a little bit to find this wine. It's in there. This is Gavi made with the Cortese grape. Cortese is the grape in Gavi. It has to be. And, well, it's there, but I'm being very quiet. I'm listening. I'm being a good listener. And there it is. It's pretty. It's delicate. It is, let's talk about lemons. Lemons can be noisy. When you smell lemons in a wine, if it's like lemon blossoms or lemon curd, think of how lemon can be noisy. And then what would be a discreet lemon scent? How about lemon peel or pith? The white powdery stuff between the peel and the flesh. Pith, this is like poof, it's poof, and then it's gone, just like Kaiser's Soje. I know, I've used that one before, but it's just poof. Where is it? There it is. Oh, there it went. I think to be a great wine lover, you need to be a great listener to wine. I know I'm mixing senses here. Wait, wine doesn't make much noise. Maybe if it's sparkling, you put it to your ear, you can hear the bubbles. I equate white wine with music. You know, the music's turned up, the music's turned down. This is a turned down wine on purpose. Puts you in a mood and it gets you hungry. This is so good with so many kinds of food. So Gavi, which is the region in northwest Italy, and I'm being very quiet. The grape is Cortese, the producer is San Silvestro. It's on the wine bar menu this week. So that's just a silly way to get started here. And welcome to this week's video. It's nice to kind of see you again. Hopefully we'll see lots of you at the wine bar. And if it's not too smoky outside, we'll have seating out there as well. Before we go into what we're pouring at the wine bar this week, we'd like to tell you the good news that whereas Tom Kelly cannot come for 2 nights next week, he cannot come all the way from Fairfax where he lives and visit to show Italian wine twice. That's what he's doing on Tuesday. We announced that last week within hours of the announcement, not days, within hours, that event filled. So the dilemma is I have a private event to do the next day, so we can't do Wednesday this time as a remedial event. So I'm actually gonna present Tom's wines myself, along with his rep, the wonderful vendor named Samantha. Samantha and I will struggle through these 12 wines. You won't find them a struggle. We will do a little homework. Actually, I've tasted all these with Tom, and I won't be the same as Tom as presenting, but I'll have my own way with it. And Sam, I'm sure, will be very supportive. Point is, this Monday, for those of you who could not get in on Tuesday's Italian wine event, you can do Tom Kelly's wines from Italy with Sam and myself. Tom will be here in spirit. Sam and I will be here physically and lead you 24 lucky few Monday attendees through 12. Actually, there might be a 13th wine that Tom doesn't show us. I hope he's not listening. We're gonna do Italy all night long. A lot of these are wonderful values too. You're gonna find that this time that the lineup is slightly tilted toward the more affordable and you know, more easy to drink on Tuesday night kind of a style. They're not cheap wines, they're not expensive wines, and there will be some great wines in there too, but point is, that's the emphasis this time. At any rate, we hope we will have you on Monday or Tuesday if you'd like to drink a bunch of good Italian wines, with or without Tom Kelly. So that's the significant announcement of the day. I'd also tell you something a little bit about what we're always doing, and a lot of you know this, but I think it's useful to point out that we are always trying wine on your behalf, and sometimes the wine is not even locally available yet. This Chablis doesn't even get carried, hardly represented at all in California. We have to buy it from the importer directly, who is on the East Coast. This is a Chablis, a rather interestingly decorated one, a bottle that's a little unusual for that wine type. Chablis, the real stuff from France, from a place called Chablis. We're back to talking about places again. It's another discreet wine, and it's the Patricia Racan 2019. Now, especially during the pandemic, we were putting a bottle looking like this up in front of you several times during these videos and saying, many and more of you are getting into Chablis. For some reason, like the pandemic brought out more sparkling wine lovers, more rosé lovers, and more, for some reason, Chablis really took off for us. And many of you got into the 2018 vintage of this, bought us out, we got a little more, you bought us out, we got a little more, and so on. Well, the 18's finally gone, and the 19 is available on the East Coast. We do not sell you a wine without trying it first. And so that is in fact what I was doing today. I know this will be awful, but I am tasting a wine right in front of you that you can't have yet until we say it passes muster. And Eric and Kathy and I tried it earlier today, in fact, and we already realized this is a wonderful follow-up to the 18. This is Chablis 100% Chardonnay, grown in prehistoric seabed. So this used to be under water once, and there used to be all kinds of living seashells there, and now they're dead. This is their graveyard, basically. And those guys have been transformed into a form of limestone called Kimmeridgian limestone. And you'll still wander through vineyards of Chablis and see seashells frequently. It's a very common sighting. The grape is Chardonnay. However, it's not Chardonnay anything like what we might make in California. Certainly we make lean ones here, but more often make a big, yummy Chardonnay, right? The oaky, buttery style. This is not that. Chablis is kind of like the opposite of that. It's very bracing, briny. Maybe those sea creatures are still having a say. And it's also normally not seeing oak barrels. The Patricia Racan difference is this does see wood, but the barrels are older and they're larger. Does a bigger barrel give you bigger oak flavors? Actually, no, it's quite the opposite, because you've got more wine per amount of oak surface area. You actually have a more discrete application of those very vague vanilla flavors. And they are vague because, once again, those barrels are big and they are used. So all that new oak flavor has already been kind of like sucked out by some of their wine coming before. It's really nice. We are now venturing on perhaps lemon curd or vanilla. So this is a little louder than the Gavi. Really loving this next vintage. I can't wait to get some out here. Anyway, this is just a demonstration of what we do all the time, you know, checking out wine on your behalf. Usually got the notebook out in front of us. I've already got the notes written about that one. It's gonna come sometime, so be looking forward to it. Do you remember the Levi's for Men brand? I think it came out in the 70s. I was talking about another 70s commercial last week, but Levi's for Men with a skosh more room in the seat and thighs. I'm starting to need that myself. This is Chablis with a skosh more room, just a skosh more room in the seat and thighs, you could say. It's a slightly amplified, but still super correct to the region. Obviously, I can't leave this wine alone. I'm very excited about it. It's coming, but there's other things I'm excited about. Can't always stay quiet. Look at that. Isn't that cool? You who have long followed the wines of the Wine Steward, and especially those imported by Kermit Lynch, will recognize this label as coming from a place called Sancerre and rendered by a guy named Hippolyte Reverdy. Hippolyte. What was his mother thinking? Hippolyte Reverdy makes white Sancerre and occasionally, not every year, a Sancerre Rosé. Sancerre Rosé has to be, by local wine law, made from the Pinot Noir grape. This doesn't get out much. In fact, this may be the very, very first time we've carried this particular Sancerre Rosé. You'd think I was putting it on the wine bar. I won't, because this 2 cases that we just got in may be the only 2 cases we get. This is, I believe, the first time that our wine rep has dutifully let us know that we can grab it now, but we may not be able to reorder. So I'd rather 24 bottles, the 2 cases we got, end up going home with you. And you get to savor this 100% Pinot Noir Rosé. Sancerre Rosé is never inexpensive. I think one reason is because Sancerre is so darn famous, especially people who go to Paris, they get to know it, they can pronounce the word, and it's also delicious. I mean, so for 2 great reasons, it's one of the most famous of the rosés and kind of slightly more expensive. I can tell you it's one of the 2 or 3 best rosés we've carried this year. Along with this one, I would say the Bourdain Cassis Rosé, of which we still have some, and then the Gros-Noré Rosé from Bandol, France. Those are my top 3 for the year. They're all a little bit over 30 bucks. They might like drop below 30 once your wine club discount kicks in. And yet this is the one that you have to speak for now or forever hold your peace, because you won't be holding a bottle of this. Right on. So that's a wine that's not here yet. And then the Sancerre Rosé, that is here as of yesterday. Boom. And now we can tell you about what we're doing at the wine bar this weekend. Well, we always start, you know, the menu changes every week, and yet we always do a sparkling every week. This is the sparkling this week. This one we tasted yesterday and said, yep, we haven't done this type in a while, so let's do the Davy and Brown sparkling wine. We always do a nice, delicate white or barely pink, evasive, there's that word again, sparkling wine to which you must carefully listen. So let's try this one, shall we? Another delicate, elegant white or rosé coming your way. Oh my God, what the hell? Look at that. Yes, we have finally done it. Again, it's been some time since we've carried a red sparkling. And to my mind, there are 2 very famous world-renowned red sparkling. I mean, whether or not they deserve to be world-renowned, Lambrusco from Italy And from Australia, this sparkling Shiraz. You can say Shiraz if you want, but you can sound a little more Australian. Put your Crocodile Dundee on if you say Shiraz. This is the Debian Brown Sparkling Shiraz, a wine that is always a bit assertive. And this is, in fact, incredibly assertive in color. I'm talking about listening to things earlier, being a careful listener. You don't have to listen too hard to this wine. It just it plays on higher volume. And yet, it's intriguing. We've carried a few of these over our 21 years. We don't always have one on the shelf. And yet, I can promise you this is the best sparkling Shiraz we've ever carried. Debian Brown. A very intriguing smell of, not to put you off, but root vegetables along with blackberry fruit. It's almost like blackberries that are not fruity. You know how some fruit is actually kind of more rooty? If you think about it, some fruit is not fruity. Blackberries? I mean, crush a bunch in your hand, put your nose up, and that's this. It's a more earthy blackberry thing. That is damn good and actually refreshing. And there's a creaminess in the back. And there were only 4 6-packs of this in California. We're grabbing them. They're getting here today. The vendor kindly left this bottle for us to mull over. And then 4 more 6-packs come of Sparkling Shiraz, the sparkling wine of the week, to which you don't need to listen too carefully. I mean, I could probably... I still hear this wine. Nice. However, we promised you some discretion. We've already told you about this, the San Silvestro Gavi, 100% Cortese. That's the crisp white wine of the week. We encourage you to come in without your earbuds and listen to this beautiful, discreet, evasive wine. So that's the crispy white wine of the week. And we're kind of continuing that theme with our dry rosé of the week. This has the unfortunate name of La Chapelle des Swill. And normally if people walk into the store and ask us if we are selling swill or if we are serving swill on the wine bar menu, we would just be a little upset. Like, what are you trying to imply? Yeah. This unfortunately named wine, it is basically the basic pronunciation, La Chapelle des Swill. So now you can ask if we have swill on the menu this weekend, and we will ashamedly say yes. But actually, once you try the wine, you'll realize this is not swill, it's swill, and it's swanky shit. Yeah, this just arrived, like we tasted it last week and said, nope, we still haven't bought enough rosé yet this year, and here it is. This is from Provence. It is 25% Grenache, 25% Cabernet Sauvignon, 25% Rol. Rol, what's the other name for Rol? Remember how Terry Garr in Young Frankenstein said to Gene Wilder, would you like to go for a Rol and Cihé? Rol and Cihé. Yes, Rol. That's not what she was talking about. This is Rol the grape roll, if you want. And that's the same as Vermentino. Down in Italy and elsewhere, they'll call it Vermentino, and south of France, it's often called Roll. So 25% of a white wine here, white grape is involved. 10% Syrah, 10% Cinsault, and yet another white grape is the Caboose here. 5% Grenache Blanc, so 30% white wine. No wonder it's so darn pale. Oh, it's so pretty. Nectarines and tangerines, lots of eans. Maybe the subtle sweat of U.S. Marine. Yeah, it is a kind of marine thing. Maybe not the guy's sweat, but salinity. Yeah, pretty. Very pretty. And there's the tanginess on the palate. That takes me back to that first Ian, the tangerine thing. I look forward to sharing this with you. Now, we've talked about evasivity, and in fact, 2 weeks ago on the wine bar menu, we presented a theme. It's always a theme. Sometimes it's all French, sometimes it's all Spanish wine, sometimes it's all from the central coast of California. But there's always a theme. Last week's theme was, there was no theme, and we basically called last week's flight 5 red wines that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. It was kind of fun to jump around. There's a fly. But 2 weeks ago, we did a flight that was based on a delicacy. The red wines were all fragrant, they had a voice, but they were wines you had to kind of chase down, as we've been talking about all day. Digressing a bit too much about that, we thought we would come back and show you a red wine theme representing wines that are more heavy duty in their attitude. Not necessarily always heavy duty in alcohol or thickness or viscosity, but you've got always a strong, a loud, a pronounced voice happening. I haven't yet decided on the sequence. That's one of the trickiest things when you are lining up 5 loudmouth reds to go not against each other, but you want them to agree with each other. You want everyone to have its voice. And who's going to speak first? That was kind of the dilemma at a recent city council meeting that we were involved in. Who speaks first? You know, who's the loudmouth, and how should we build this flight? So that's why I have all these bottles open. I'm going to be building the menu in just a second, as soon as I'm through here, and decide what we should do. But let's at least tell you what the wines are, and we'll figure out the configuration later. This is Truchard Cabernet. We've long admired Truchard. We don't always carry it, but Truchard is not just a producer, but a vineyard owner. Truchard Vineyard is rather famous. They've got longevity in Carneros. Carneros, the southern part of the Napa Valley, is not always known for the Bordeaux varieties, and yet they make fantastic Merlot and sometimes great Cabernet down there, and Truchard nails it with this Cabernet. It's not over the top. Within the definition of Cabernet, you might say this is not a loudmouth. It's not overly oaked. It's not too high in alcohol, but it makes a statement. It's profound. It is pure. It is real. It is authentic. It is honest Cabernet. Other Cabernets are embellished to make themselves more than they are. This wine is what it is, and it doesn't need embellishment. It is just classic stuff. I have it a little too cold here, but the warmer it gets, yeah, man, that's nice. In Carneros, all of a sudden you get a little bit of effect, the Bordeaux effect going, where things are no longer just boom fruit. There will be fruit, but there's also that earth of Bordeaux, the tobacco, and spice and herb, a little black olive. If we can call anything from the Napa Valley classic, I mean, how old does a region have to be before you can say that's classic? You get classic from Truchard. I promise you, it's a nice wine, and even better with food. So maybe taste it on the flight, but project a little bit. Think about what it would taste like with a hearty meal. And again, I really don't know what the sequence is going to be, but I do know that we are going to pour this wine called Masté Capital. This is from Fougères. Fougères is fun to say if you know how to say it. And it's a 2019 Fougères from Masté Capital, and it is a region in the southwest part of France, way down there in the boonies, really. I'm loving Fougères lately. I've had several very good ones lately. And they most often have Mourvèdre and Carignan in them, and then often get a little help from Grenache and Syrah. This one is in fact 50% Mourvèdre and 25% Carignan and 25% Syrah. That kind of reminds me that as of today, perhaps this morning or tomorrow morning, depending on the bricks, we have grapes being picked for us up in Oakley from some of the oldest vines in California. What are the varieties for our next Plus de Vie wine from Contra Costa County? Mourvèdre and Carignan, some of the oldest own-rooted vines in California. It's pretty cool. I was inspired to have that done for us, and with us, we get to have a hand in it by this wine, among others. Mourvèdre is not safe. It's not all about fruit. There's often a little beast to it. But it's a gentle beast, and it's made more gentle by the help of Syrah and the Carignan giving a base note. Yet another wine you don't want to necessarily drink as a cocktail. It's got a loud mouth. It's assertive. You want to have grill with this. Please grill something this weekend and have some Masté Capital Fougères. All right. What's another loudmouth in the industry? In our wine industry, we always regard Carmenere. It's a loudmouth. Carmenere is the lost Bordeaux grape. This one comes from Chile, where most of the Carmenere in the world is grown. This is from our friends Santa Carolina. It was recently in a wine club. Carmenere nearly always has a very eccentric nose. If it didn't have that nose, we'd be disappointed. We say, where's the Carmenere in this Carmenere? This is noisy, and it's nosy, but it's not overly so in a Carmenere way. They can be often just way over the top with a greenness. I feel like Carmenere is successful when the green bell pepper has converted over to like a roasted red pepper. If you can imagine that. Have you ever roasted red peppers on a skillet and then put them quickly into a brown paper bag so that the skins steam off? It's kind of that. It's a bit of that happening here. Very, very lovely, but loud. It's got noise. It's a noisy wine. Again, maybe you can drink this as a cocktail. It kind of depends on how loud you want your wines to be. I would rather have something roasted, like roast beef with this. A heavy duty, maybe a cold weather dish. If it ever rains again, the Carmenere will be called upon to support our winter feast. 2 more wines to tell you about, and then we're done. We are reviving the idea of Bocage. Bocage is one of the greatest growers and producers in Lodi. I feel like Lodi succeeds when the grower and or the producer actually has a world wine awareness, which is not all the time. Some Lodi folks are kind of insulated and they keep the blinders on, but Bocage has made wine in Spain, and there's so many like cool things to know about them, but we can digress later on that. But Bocage here is representing Graziano to us, or Graziano. Graziano is the name of a red grape grown primarily in Rioja, Spain. And we often call it, I never hear anybody else say it, but I often call it the Petit Verdot of Rioja. In other words, the main grape in Rioja is Tempranillo, the Tempranillo grape, kind of the Cabernet of Spain. Well, using that illusion, I think of what they do in Napa when they make a great cab. They often put in maybe 2 or 3 or 5% of, among other things, Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot adds this intriguing kind of garden smell. And that's, in fact, what's happening here. This is a noisy wine. It's got a very assertive character, and we don't always want to drink 100% Graziano. This time we get to. You don't have to, but you get to. Let's put it that way. It's an opportunity to know what Graziano confers to a great Rioja. Pretty intriguing stuff. All right, there goes Graziano, and then the final wine. And I think for that wine, I'm going to get out my New World Pinot Noir glass, as we have come to call it. This is from Nell. Nell is located in Paso Robles, and whereas some Paso Robles fruit, we can say Robles, Paso Robles fruit is represented in this wine. This is called Central Coast because much, if not most of the grape sourcing, there's 5 vineyards involved, goes farther south and cooler. Places like Edna Valley, near San Luis Obispo, and even farther down in Santa Barbara County. And you can tell by this nose, it's not an over-the-top wine. It's definitely ripe. It's got generosity in body, but it's got some of the cool weather Syrah elements as well that might remind you vaguely of the Northern Rhone quality of maybe Hermitage. Because Hermitage in the Northern Rhone, it's a more sun-spanked vineyard slope, and of all the Syrahs grown in the Northern Rhone, it's the more burly one. This, I think you could say this is reminiscent. Pretty neat wine. Just like hundreds of cases made, not thousands of cases. That's what we specialize in. This is a new producer we've just landed called Nell. I like this wine, and I want to get some lamb for it. It's a lamb wine. Once again, so we're having loudmouths on the red wine flight. Every one of these, I think, are very credible wines, but every one of them really needs to speak to you with food nearby, you know? So that's the idea. Some wines are loud, some wines are quiet. That's the fun of it. I love this job. Thanks so much. See you at the wine bar this weekend. Come and get that Sancerre Rosé. It's gone. See ya.